All right, welcome back. I've got a pretty rapid fire sort of upcoming new releases type of video for you today. But first, before we get started, hit subscribe. Also go ahead and follow me at what_can_brown on Instagram. Post daily. You'll love it. So what I want to cover today is actually upcoming releases, and I'm going to limit it. So starting from tomorrow, today's a Thursday, and tomorrow is tomorrow's the 12th. So it's going to be starting from May 12th, 2023, and going basically through the end of August. I'm not covering lots of labels. I'm actually only covering three, or at least three series. So I'm going to cover first the Craft Recordings Contemporary Records series in partnership with Acoustic Sounds. The second one that I'm going to cover is What? It is the, of course, it's the Original Jazz Classics series, which is also a Craft Recordings, edition. And then the third that I want to cover is actually Analogue Productions / Acoustic Sounds series. So they have some releases as well. So it really is just limited to those three. Obviously, there's a lot of overlap because of some of that partnership. But yeah, let's go ahead and dig into it. All right, so how we're going to cover this, I'm actually not going to do it exactly in terms of order by date. I'm going to do it in order by series, okay? So the first one I want to talk about is coming up a week from tomorrow, which is May 19th, 2023. And that is actually the sort of the next phase of the Contemporary Records series. So to refresh your memory, what Craft Recordings is doing with Contemporary is they're doing all analog pressings. Lacquers are cut from the original tapes by Bernie Grunman. These are pressed at QRP. They're 180 gram. They go on sale for $30 as a tip-on jacket. There's a lot to love about these things. I actually have a couple of the editions from, I think, a mixture of like last year and early this year, but so far Craft Recordings is doing a really good job with these things. They've been putting out some stuff by like Art Pepper, Hampton Hawes, trying to think who else. But anyway, everything that I've heard has been really good. So this next one that's coming up on May 19th is Andre Previn and his pals, and it is titled West Side Story. So this is music. I think I don't know if it's all from the soundtrack of West Side Story or if it's mostly that and some others. I think it's basically music from West Side Story. That tends to be what Andre Previn did. So anyway, his lineup on this particular title includes Red Mitchell and Shelly Manne. So I don't have an original pressing of this. I've thought about it in the past. I know that some of the content is a little bit, for me at least, too close to the melody of the actual soundtrack. So some of that material doesn't interest me as much. However, I have heard some of the other material just by streaming it online. And I will say it actually is pretty good. There are some good tracks. I think that this one could be interesting, especially because it's a, that kind of like piano trio type of format. Craft always does a really good job with that. So anyway, that's one to look out for. All right, so keeping with all those credentials that I mentioned for the last one in terms of Bernie Grunman, tip-on, 180 gram, etc., $30, right? So coming up on June 16th is Leroy, or perhaps Leroy, I'm not actually sure, but I'll say Leroy Vinegar's Sextet. This is Leroy Walks. So, next one on Contemporary, this is a really good session. And in that sextet format, I'll actually read it off for you. You have Victor Feldman, Gerald Wilson, Teddy Edwards, Carl Perkins, and Tony Basley. Actually, out of all of those, I'm not familiar with Tony Basley. I don't know what else he has done. But in any event, I believe this was recorded in 1958. There's no originals on this album. However, that's not necessarily unexpected for a Contemporary Records release. They often did a lot of stage tunes. They did a lot of movie soundtracks, right? This one isn't exactly a single soundtrack or inspired by a single play, but there are a lot of, I would say classics or standards that, maybe some of them have been written for theater. I'm not exactly sure. But no originals, but, nevertheless, this is really good stuff. This is a fantastic album. I've enjoyed owning this for a number of years. And, this actually is one of those that, I think it's hard to get in its original format, especially if it's in decent shape. And I think that, that having a reissue out there is probably a welcome addition. All right, next up, and actually I'm going to cover two here because they're not released on the same day, but they're kind of a pair. So we have Ornette Coleman's Something Else coming up on July 14th, and followed is Tomorrow's the Question, also by Ornette Coleman on the 18th of August. So the reason why I group these two is not just because they're both Ornette Coleman editions, or lead albums, and these happen to be original pressings. The reason why I bring them up is because I want to say it was last year, Craft put out this box set, which actually is the very same editions that are coming out individually. They had them available in this box set first. And so they originally didn't have them available for sale individually. You had to buy them in this format. Have every confidence it's the exact same editions that reside in this box set that they're just putting out separately. So fortunately for me, I don't need to buy it again, right? So I'm kind of excited about that. What I will say is that these editions are fantastic. And even if you're not as much of a fan of Ornette Coleman's later work, if you like Shape of Jazz to Come, I would say that you're probably going to like Something Else and Tomorrow's the Question. Or at least be open to them, right? Because Ornette Coleman's stuff can be a little bit challenging. So on this one, the format is Ornette Coleman, Don Cherry, Walter Norris, Don Payne, and Billy Higgins. That is Something Else, and probably more the sort of the classic one. Like if you're not that familiar with Ornette Coleman, you may want to start there. Tomorrow's the Question. Who do we have? Actually, this is a little bit more of what I would say is a traditional contemporary records lineup, not unlike what Sonny Rollins did in Way Out West, right? Because he ended up kind of going with some of the standard crowd for contemporary records. And he hadn't, I don't think he had played with them prior, but he ended up being very happy with it. So anyway, Ornette Coleman may have gotten some inspiration from Sonny Rollins with this lineup. You do have Ornette and Don Cherry again, but here you have Percy Heath, Red Mitchell, and Shelly Manne on Tomorrow's the Question. So in any event, both great titles. And again, these both carry the same credentials as what I led with when I started talking about this series. All right, so switching gears, we're now talking about Craft Recordings, sort of dusting off of the Original Jazz Classics, or OJC label. Now, I have talked about this a little bit in the past, and I want to say again, I have a beef with OJC. There's a lot of people that are talking about OJC as if this is like the second coming of something that was great. OJC was not something that was great. It is not traditionally a good brand. It's just not. It was horribly inconsistent. Yes, there was stuff released in like 83 to 86 that George Horn remastered and that sometimes sounded good, but by and large, the thing that characterized OJC was the inconsistency of the music. They were not great quality covers. They were not great quality vinyl. I really didn't like sometimes stickers that they would have on there. I'm trying to think if they ever had an OB. I think it was more of the time it was sticker. And so, okay, Craft Recordings is dusting this brand off, but the brand equity is not there. They're trying to reestablish it. So it's just a weird kind of conflict. When I started collecting, everybody made fun of OJCs. And now all of a sudden we're supposed to like hold up our 80s OJCs with pride. And it just seems weird to me because I was never impressed. So that being said, I actually do have full confidence that Craft Recordings is going to be able to revive this brand. I'm just a little bit concerned about the lack of equity that carries with it. But, again, Craft does a great job. And so I'm sure that that we'll get more of that. So let's just dive into some of these releases. So the first one that comes out, again, today's May 11th, comes out tomorrow, May 12th. I did pre-order it, is Miles Davis's Workin'. And this is just absolutely one of the best titles that he ever did with his quintet. So you've got John Coltrane, Red Garland, Paul Chambers, and Philly Joe Jones. What is the amazing track on this? It Never Entered My Mind. It leads off the whole thing. I mean, really, the whole album is great, but that track is one of the best tracks that has ever been put to record. It just is. It's fantastic. So I am excited about this one. Some of the credentials with the this new OJC remastering are: it's cut from the original master tapes by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio, pressed at RTI, 180 gram. It's got the tip-on jacket with an OJC Obi, which I absolutely think is the worst part of the entire package. I don't like this idea of calling out OJC. I just don't. And I think the Obi is a little bit hokey. That's just me. A lot of people are going to love it. Everybody's going to want to keep it, and because people like things and, hype stickers and things. So anyway, it's coming out tomorrow. I did pre-order it because I'm very interested in how it compares to this original pressing. So I make fun, but here I am. I'm a customer. All right. So next up, and one thing I will say, that Miles Davis Workin' title, if you go to Craft's website, sold out. Most of these that I'm talking about, maybe all of them in this OJC series that have been announced thus far, including ones that were very recently announced, are sold out on Craft. Okay, so let me before people frantically, either people are disappointed or they freak out. Just because Craft has it sold out doesn't mean it's sold out. You can still get some of these titles on Acoustic Sounds. You can still get some of these on Amazon. We're talking Target. There's other retailers. Don't just think that you have to go and pre-order or order directly from Craft. I would say that that's probably your best bet initially in terms of quality of packaging and all of that. But just know that that I don't, despite the fact that Craft says that some of these are sold out, including Workin' and including this next one, it doesn't mean that they're actually sold out. All right, so this next one is Thelonious Monk with John Coltrane. So I actually have never owned a copy of this. Actually just came across a OJC copy from the 80s in a record store the other day, but I was like, why would I get that when I'm probably going to get this this new edition? But anyway, it was originally released on Jazzland. Like I said, I've never had a copy. This one, also similar credentials, right? Cut from the original master tapes by Kevin Gray, Coherent Audio, pressed on 180 gram vinyl at RTI. Has the tip-on jacket with Obi. This is also $39, and it comes out on May 26th. So we're just a couple of weeks away from that one. All right, so those were the two May releases. We actually have one coming up at the very end of June. This is on June 30th, and this is a popular title, or it's going to be. So, Bill Evans' Waltz for Debbie. It is possible that this is the best album that Bill Evans has ever put out. So let's cover just a couple of things up front. It is at the same price point, $39. This is an all analog mastering from the original tapes by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio, presented in a tip-on jacket. And it is the stereo edition. What I'm showing you here is the original mono. So why this is an interesting title, independent of the fact that it's such a iconic album, is this right here. And what this is the Analogue Productions edition of the very same album in stereo. And why I bring this up in particular is because just last year, Analogue Productions decided to repress their box set of all of Bill Evans's albums for Riverside. They priced it at $900, which, yes, is expensive. There are a lot of discs. It's 45 RPM format. And in the secondhand market, these are going for thousands of dollars. Not this title, but the box set. So when the very expensive reissue of the box set came out, and it covered so many albums, I had to get it. And perhaps that was misguided. That remains to be seen. But like I said, this is 45 RPM, and here's the most interesting thing about this. This new OJC series may not be the same remastering as this. And why I say may, I think it is. It's just the reason why I say may, and I haven't somebody out there is going to be able to correct me, and you can tell me in the comments. But this is what they're saying about the Analogue Productions edition that came out in 08 or something like that. Maybe it was 2012. But anyway, they said it was mastered by Steve Hoffman and Kevin Gray at Acoustic Mastering from the original Analogue tapes. And in this new OJC version, they're saying all analog mastering, which I said before, original tapes, yes. Kevin Gray, okay, he was involved before, but it was with Steve Hoffman at Acoustic. And what they're saying now is Kevin Gray at Coherent. And again, it has the tip-on jacket. So the interesting thing would be is that if this is a truly another remastering, it's the second one that Kevin Gray's been a part of. And that is interesting because apparently Kevin Gray's participation over at Blue Note is that he doesn't want to do the same thing twice. So I would think that this is a remastering, but it hasn't been that long, and who knows. So what will be very interesting is on June 30th, when this thing is put out, inevitably I'm going to get a copy. Inevitably I'm not keeping both the Analogue Productions and the OJC. Let's be real, I have the box set. I'm probably going to keep all the 45s, but it will not stop me from taking in a copy and being able to flip it, I'm quite sure, for exactly the same price that I paid. And so I'll keep you posted on that one. All right, similar credentials with this next title. This one is coming out on July 28th, and it is Mel Waldron's Mal 2. So this is a original pressing. You can tell by how atrocious my copy is. I assure you the vinyl condition is way worse than even what this cover suggests. And this cover is tattered and covered with tape and not looking great. Again, my vinyl is not good at all. I have a placeholder copy that I didn't spend much on. So therefore, I'm very interested in this reissue. So with the OJC edition, it is all analog from the original tapes by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio, pressed at RTI, 180 gram vinyl, also for $39. Most recently, well, actually, let me start a little bit ago. The first time this was released on OJC was in 1991. They did it on CD and cassette. I do not think that they did it on vinyl at all. So then you might ask, oh, is it the same remastering as that they did on CD and cassette? No, because Kevin Gray wasn't working at that time. Somebody correct me. I didn't see his name back then. I don't think he was working at that time. So this would be a new remastering. So the interesting thing here, though, is that most recently, this album was put out by the Electric Recording Company. For those of you who don't know ERC, they press $600 reissues of great records, and that's the retail price. So they have this like proprietary process that they use. I'm not gonna lie, I do have a couple of ERC titles. However, I've been selling them somewhat routinely, especially as I get a like a better original pressing or an alternative pressing. I actually have a shootout coming up of a Chet Baker record where I'm going to compare to an ERC, so stay tuned for that one. But in any event, just in 2021, Electric Recording Company put this thing out for like $600. Guess what? It was popular. Now it's going for $1,000. You might even be able to get an original pressing for less than that, depending. So that's kind of interesting. And I guess the question that I have is that with OJC, how might it compare to the ERC? Guess what? Who cares? Because OJC's $39 and Electric Recording Company's $1,000. And I kind of don't even care what the sonic differences are because it's not going to be worth it. So anyway, that's just my take. And I'm sorry, I'm quite excited about this OJC series. I know I started off a little bit snarky about the brand, but I'm, certainly more snarky about ERC and and some of these other labels that try to put this stuff out that cost us a lot of money. And so the fact that OJC is doing it, the fact that Craft is doing it or is behind it, you just know that it's going to be good. And when I post it on Instagram, I'm going to take out the O because I don't want that in there. All right, so this next one, and really the last one that I'm going to cover today, because I'm only of the OJC titles, because I'm only covering through the end of August, is another Bill Evans title, and this is probably the second most popular, the second best album that Bill Evans put out behind Waltz for Debbie, and that is Sunday at the Village Vanguard. So it's from the exact same session. Is it different days? I don't even know if it is different days. I think they just kind of did a mashup right between the two and kind of split the tracks. Anyway, fantastic album. This is an original pressing. And anyway, this one has many of the same credentials as well as the same price point, $39. Coming out on August 25th, 180 gram. This is stereo, just the same as the other one was. All analog mastering from the original tapes by Kevin Gray, Coherent Audio, 180 gram, tip-on jacket. So, as I mentioned, I have the box set, right? The Analogue Productions put out, reissued last year. And so I already have a very recent and amazing sounding 45 RPM edition. This one was mastered by, again, Steve Hoffman and Kevin Gray at Acoustic Mastering from the original Analogue tapes. So what we're going to have is the ability to compare, theoretically, two remasterings by Kevin Gray, one at 33 RPM and one at 45 RPM. I don't know, it's excessive. This is, it's not necessary, but at the same time, maybe it is because the box set was just put out again last year, and that had to have been in reaction to the fact that it was coming out this year, right? And that everybody was going to be able to get it, and so why not get that last grab of sales before it's widely available for a significantly less price? So the question will inevitably be, is it worth it to get the $900 box set? For now, you could say possibly, because there's all those other albums that are in there. But, who knows? Maybe after a couple of years, OJC tackles all of them. And then we'll have, we can have that conversation then. So in any event, I am quite interested in this series. I haven't pre-ordered all of them. Most of these are, like I said, being positioned as sold out on Craft. It doesn't mean they're sold out. Check Amazon, check Target, check Acoustic Sounds, or check whomever. These things will end up being in stores as well, right? So you don't have to pre-order them. But I want to say that I pre-ordered everything except for the Monk. I may end up adding that one. We'll see. All right, so 2 more titles, and then we're done. These are part of the Verve Acoustic Sounds series, not Verve by request, but the Acoustic Sounds editions of Verve Records. So they've been doing Verve, they've been doing Impulse. There's 2 Verve that I want to cover. So the first one is coming up on May 26th, just a couple of weeks. This is Stan Getz and Charlie Bird, and the title is Jazz Samba. Never owned a copy of this. I've seen it in stores just an inordinate amount of times, never picked it up. Now that Acoustic Sounds is tackling it, might be a reason to. So this one's retailing for $39 or $38.98 on Acoustic Sounds website. This is mastered by Ryan K. Smith at Sterling Sound from the original tapes, pressed at QRP, has a Stoughton tip-on jacket. Everything that Acoustic Sounds has put out in this series sounds phenomenal. I made a video not too long ago where I was talking about some of the best sounding records in my entire collection, and inevitably Acoustic Sounds Verve series stuff is on the list, if not at the top. It always sounds great. And so if you're not familiar with that album, if you want to do a blind buy, or if you are familiar with that album, you want the best sounding pressing, it's probably going to be this one. And at $39, yeah, that actually is more expensive than an original pressing. This is probably the only example out of all these records that I've been talking about where the reissue is more expensive, but it might actually be worth it. I haven't pre-ordered this one yet. We'll see. All right, and the last one, and this is Billie Holiday's Songs for Distingue. I think that's, you don't see that word too often. I think it's probably French, right? So distingue, perhaps. 180 gram, also $38.98. This one comes out on June 23rd. So let's see. This one's a little bit different. It's mastered by Bernie Grunman. Also, but from the original tapes, pressed at QRP in a Stoughton jacket. Billie Holiday is a little bit, I don't want to say problematic. I always question the audio quality of any reissue of a Billie Holiday tune because she was a little bit earlier than, I would say, the prime of, say, an Ella Fitzgerald, right? Or even like a Sarah Vaughan. And so when I see Billie Holiday, I'm like, is it going to sound good? Except that some of the other editions that have been put out that I've heard recently, some of the reissues actually do sound really good. So, this one is not a particularly early recording, and so I have full confidence that if Acoustic Sounds is going to be tackling this, they know that it's going to sound good, and it's probably going to be worth picking up. And man, does she have a haunting voice. Absolutely beautiful. So, for me, the more Billie Holiday, the better. The more Ella, the better. The more Sarah Vaughan, the better, especially with these reissue series that really seem to highlight their voices and present them in the best way they can. So this is one that I have not pre-ordered yet. but I may indeed pre-order it. We'll see. And okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to cover. I only wanted to cover these 3 series. I know that these are a little bit more well-known. I can't do them all in a single video. I'm going to do another video, and I'm going to tackle things like, you know, other series that I like. I really like We Jazz, which is, you know, kind of the We Jazz Helsinki thing. I really like We Release Jazz, which is put out by We Release Whatever the F We Want. Which that one's fantastic. There's BBE's series as well. There's a variety of others, right? But you can't cover them all in one. I'll do another video coming up very soon about some of those perhaps lesser known ones. International Anthem probably has some stuff that's coming out, right? Lots of good stuff. It's a good time to be in this hobby. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.